welcome to your first aquarium and pond guide. I'm Paul Talbot. I'm going to show you just how fun and easy it is to keep fish, providing that you have the right information. So when you get an aquarium, out of all the different types of fish there are, you need to make sure you're choosing the right fish that are going to suit your aquarium. Or on the other hand, make sure you get an aquarium or pond that actually suits the type of fish that you want to keep. Now, information is quite easy with this DVD. Just follow the chapters of the DVD and make sure you understand the concepts behind each one of those chapters, and it will make sure you've got the right information to really enjoy your fish keeping. There are so many different styles and size aquariums you can choose. Do remember to try and get your aquarium as large as possible, and you want it as long and wide as you can to increase the amount of surface area on the aquarium. Try not to make your aquarium too tall, because that's what hinders maintenance in the aquarium and reduces the amount of oxygen available to the fish. Once you've purchased your aquarium, you do need to consider what type of fish you're going to put in the aquarium. Some of the popular choices being goldfish, cichlids, tropical fish, and even marines. There are freshwater cold water fish, freshwater warm water fish, known as tropical fish, saltwater cold water fish, and saltwater tropical fish, known as marine fish. This DVD will show you many different types of tanks and fish, and help you to create the right environment for the fish you select. All the principles in this DVD, expressed with reference to aquariums, also apply to garden ponds. So the basic minimum requirements for fish kept in aquariums or in outdoor ponds are really the same. Now let's dive right into it. Goldfish are still one of the easiest and most commonly kept species of fish in the world. The main problem that people have with these fish is putting too many of them in the aquarium and feeding them too much. Goldfish don't have a stomach as such, they've got a long intestine. So basically they'll keep eating until they pollute their own water. Goldfish are closely related to the carp, so they are quite a messy species of fish. So it does pay to have very good filtration on any aquarium with goldfish. Goldfish can also be kept in tropical conditions. When that's the case, they do tend to eat a little bit more and be a little bit more active. When mixing tropical fish with goldfish, just remember the goldfish have got quite a big mouth, so don't keep anything too small, and they tend to have quite flowy fins, so don't keep anything that might nip on the fins or be aggressive to the goldfish. Many people choose not to put goldfish in their tropical aquariums because the goldfish are just more messy and destructive than most tropical fish. The size fish grow in an aquarium is governed by the size of the tank. The bigger the aquarium, the bigger the fish are allowed to grow. And in the smaller aquariums, the fish do stunt and stay much smaller. Sometimes goldfish will breed in an aquarium, but it's very common in garden ponds. Most of the time when goldfish breed, they will eat their own eggs and young. So making sure there's lots of cover for the babies to escape to is very important if you want to breed these fish. While the goldfish are young, you can't really tell male from female, but as they get older, in breeding time, the males will have dimples on the gills. Do remember that all these goldfish are actually a line-bred species, and the stranger they are, the boggly eyes and the double tails and the pearl scales and things like that, the stranger they are, the less hardy dominant genes they've got. Therefore, the stranger ones do tend to die more easily. They don't have the strong immune system of the original species. And you really need to understand the size of mouth rule. Basically, if a fish is small enough to fit inside a big fish's mouth, you need to understand there's a very good chance it'll end up getting eaten. Goldfish by nature are a very peaceful species of fish, but every now and then you hear stories about people getting a rogue one that goes around attacking and even killing some of their fish. So look out for that. If you do get a dominant fish that's attacking the rest of your fish, you really need to look at trading it in or removing it out of the aquarium, so then you can go back to having a nice, peaceful, harmonious fish tank. What I'm going to do now is show you how to set up a very basic fish bowl like this one that can be sat on a table in the middle of the room and doesn't require any electricity running to it. The things that we're going to need to set it up is some gravel, a couple of little ornaments, some water ager, some fish food, preferably a pH test kit, and of course a fish. When you take your bowl home, it's a really good idea to give it a bit of a wipe out and to clean your gravel in a bucket before you use it. When you're choosing your gravels, try not to choose the very large pebbles, because then all the fish food falls underneath the pebbles where the fish can't actually get it. It's much better to use a finer gravel because it helps to keep the aquarium cleaner. What we want is just a very thin layer of gravel on the bottom of the bowl. For a small bowl like this, most people will use the synthetic plants instead of the real plants, because most of these small bowls usually don't have enough light or the right conditions to grow the real plants, and most of the fish that you put in these little containers, such as the little goldfish, do tend to eat the plants. So if you want a little ornamental plant, a plastic one is usually your best choice. Also select a nice little ornament for the fish to swim around. If you're getting your fish and the bowl on the same day, it's a really good idea to get a bag of water from the aquarium, so therefore the fish is already acclimatized to this water when you take it home. Because we've used water from the aquarium, the fish is ready to go straight into the bowl. For a small bowl like this one, I don't recommend any more than about one small fish. What you need to do is get an aquarium safe sponge and wipe out the algae on the inside of the bowl. Then give the gravel a good stir and remove a quarter of the water. It's best if you had the water prepared that you are going to use for the water change. Sit a jug of water next to the bowl, add your water ager and your salt, so prepare the water and do that in the morning, then do the water change at night. That way you can make sure that the water in the bowl is the same temperature as the water that you're going to use. Do not take the fish out of the bowl whenever you're doing a water change. If you've only got room for a really little aquarium, a great fish to choose is the Siamese fighting fish, which are a little fish from Thailand, which of course, as the name suggests, you can't put them together. So one single male fish per tank is usually the way they're kept. For small bowls and aquariums, Siamese fighting fish really are a good selection, because even in their natural environment, they're often found in small pockets of water, even just small footprints in the ground. The first thing I'm going to do is add a very small layer of pre-washed gravel. The same as with the goldfish bowl, having pre-prepared water from the aquarium shop is the easiest. You can just get it in a simple bag, or if you are going to make it up with tap water, don't forget to add your salt and water ager. Siamese fighting fish come in a whole array of different colours and even shapes. Spiders really are a tropical fish, so make sure you keep it in the warmest position in the house. They really thrive best at around 24-25 degrees. So if it is going to get cold in winter, do remember that they almost hibernate. They won't feed as much and they will not be as active. Siamese fighting fish are a really interesting little fish, which are actually very easy to breed. You'll notice once a male is established in the aquarium, he'll start to blow a bubble nest on the surface. When he's doing this, if you add a female to him, then he will try to breed with that female and try and lure the female under his bubble nest. Unfortunately, if the female doesn't seem to want to cooperate, he will often attack the female and sometimes even kill it. So some people will often add more than one female to disperse this sort of aggression. Once you actually notice the eggs are in the bubble nest, then the male will be often acting quite aggressive towards the female. Take the female out and just leave the male in there to look after the eggs. Once the eggs have actually hatched and you notice the little fry Siamese fighting fish swimming around your aquarium, also remove the male, because after a few days he'll lose attention and sometimes start to actually eat his own babies. The babies can be grown in that little aquarium, and make sure you're doing very regular water changes so as they grow, the high fish populations don't pollute the water. Check out these little guys. These are axolotls, or Mexican walking fish, which are the larval phase of a salamander. They grow up to about 30 centimeters, so try not to put them in too smaller aquariums. And occasionally they bite off each other's legs, but they actually grow back. Axolotls are predominantly a nocturnal species and do require conditions very similar to goldfish. Their favourite temperature is between 12 to 20 degrees, and their favourite pH is around 7.5. The male axolotl will show a swelling between the back legs after it's about a year old, so they are quite easy to differentiate male and female, and some of them have been known to live up to 15 years. Be really careful if you try to mix axolotls with fish, because they've got quite a big mouth and will often eat your fish. And then if you put the axolotls with larger fish, sometimes the fish can actually pick on the open gills of the axolotl. So mixing these with fish is often not a really good idea. It's really best to hand feed these animals. When they first snap at your fingers, you'll get a fright, but it really doesn't hurt. And what that does is stop bits of food going into the back of the aquarium and rotting and lowering your water quality. Their favourite food is earthworms and any sinking pellets, and only feed them about once every 2 days. Axolotls will regularly breed in garden ponds and occasionally even in fish tanks. Don't be afraid to keep tropical fish. The only difference between tropical fish and, let's say, goldfish is that the tropical fish require a heater if the temperature is going to fall below 25 degrees. One of the benefits of tropical fish is that you can keep a wider variety of fish, which includes various algae eaters and scavengers that can help clean the aquarium, instead of just keeping fish such as goldfish, which are actually quite messy. Some of the tropical aquariums actually require less maintenance than some of the goldfish aquariums. Also, a lot of the tropical aquariums do much better with the aquatic plants because the aquatic plants enjoy the warmer temperatures and better water quality often offered in a tropical aquarium. In order to grow plants in your aquarium, you do need to satisfy the basic minimum requirements of the plant that you're growing. So you will find that different plants do grow better under different circumstances. And don't forget that a lot of the fish you put in your aquarium will actually eat or uproot the plants. You will find some plants are easier to keep than others. Some plants do require quite specific environments, requiring lots of light and fertilizer, whereas other plants appear to just grow under the conditions that you offer. So if you do put a plant in your aquarium and it's not successful, it's probably worth either getting advice from your aquarium supplier or just trying a different type of plant next time. A lot of fish kept by beginners, such as goldfish, do love to eat the plants. So it is quite common for people to get some live aquatic plants for the aquarium, knowing that the fish are going to eat them, because it is quite a good natural food source for them. Goldfish by nature are a very destructive species of fish, so keeping live plants most of the time is just out of the question. Most of the synthetic or plastic varieties really are a better choice, because the live plants are either just going to be uprooted or eaten by the goldfish. Tropical aquariums and goldfish aquariums do require the same types of filtrations, and the same principles apply. Basically, the better the filtration, the better the aquarium is likely to run for you. Within tropical fish, there's so many different types that you can select. One of the most popular types of tropical fish to get are the cichlids, because they're very colourful and extremely hardy, so a great choice for beginners. If you are going to keep cichlids or tropical fish, we really do encourage that you get a copy of your instructional cichlid or tropical aquarium guide before you go ahead, to make sure you've got all of the right information to ensure that you will be successful. Another really interesting alternative is the crayfish or yabbies. They're very interesting little animals, but very unpredictable in their nature. I've put them together and sometimes there's no problems, and then sometimes they just go and eat each other. So particularly be careful with small ones, because the big ones will often eat the small ones, and the same thing with fish. If you put fish with them, you really have to expect that they're probably going to eat them. Yabbies have similar requirements to fish, such as goldfish, so they're to be maintained in the same fashion. The main issue with yabbies is their compatibility. One thing I've learned is that sometimes they go together and they can be mixed with fish, and sometimes they can't. They really are quite unpredictable. Most yabbies too are quite easy to breed, providing that you get a compatible pair. Turtles are a really cute and popular pet, but what you do have to remember is that most of the species grow too large for most standard aquariums. Turtles are really most suited to outdoor ponds where they're receiving the valuable UV rays from the sun, which helps to harden their shell. When you buy your turtle, make sure you get it from a registered breeder and make sure you pose any relevant licenses that might be required for reptiles in your state. When you first get your turtle, you tend to keep it in a tray for the first 8 months, in which water changes are very easy to conduct and the turtle can easily find its food. That tray will also need to have a UV 5.0 light over it. Particularly for the first 8 months, calcium blocks in the water are really important to help the turtle form properly. There are various prepared foods available for turtles, as well as things like blackworms, mysis shrimp and bloodworms. Try to keep the pH of the turtles around 7 and up to 7.6 in pH. Don't let the water become acidic because it can make the turtles sick. With the mature turtles, try to make sure that your UV light, that's the 5.0, is on at least 8 to 10 hours a day. If you don't have the UV light, it's important to make sure you put your turtle outside at least 3 times a week for a period of at least half an hour. The turtle is really best if kept at about 25 degrees. It'll be most active and happy. A mature turtle can certainly survive winter without a heater, but that will cause the animal to hibernate, so it won't be as active and it'll stop feeding. Don't have any sharp rocks that the turtle can graze itself on, or have any holes where the turtle might possibly get stuck and even drown. It's important to have some dry area so the turtle can climb up out of the water in order to bask. And make sure that you don't have glass lids underneath the light because it will take away most of the UV that needs to reach the turtle. Avoid feeding your turtle mince meat, which is really popular food to feed the turtles. It's not healthy for them because it's way too fatty. A lot of turtles are susceptible to fungal infections and can usually be quite easily treated with most of the antifungal medications available for aquarium fish. Make sure you don't release your turtle into the wild. If you can't keep it anymore, take it back to a registered breeder. People that want to have a really colourful tank of fish but don't want to go to the trouble of a marine tank will often choose cichlids, and that's for their beautiful colours and their amazing personalities. Cichlids are actually one of the most intelligent of all fish, and they're very interesting to watch. You'll see clearly which one's the boss, which one's the wimp, which one has a cave that he doesn't let anyone else in. Maybe this one's friends with that one, this one doesn't like that one. There's whole social hierarchies going on with the tank, which is really interesting to watch. Most cichlids are too aggressive to be kept with common tropical fish. So if you are going to keep cichlids, one of the main rules is to make sure you have plenty of fish in the aquarium. Because they're quite a social fish, you will find they're quite aggressive if they're kept in situations with low population. Having the higher population tends to disperse their aggression. Do be wary of some of the American cichlids, because some of them grow quite large and can be quite aggressive, so they do require a lot of space and patience. The two most obvious choices within cichlids is the African cichlids or the American cichlids. The American cichlids tend to come from river systems and have a much more neutral pH, and tend to grow quite large. Whereas the African cichlids come from the African rift lakes, so they're a lake fish and they require a much higher pH. Most of the Americans are quite tolerant for pH, but do be careful mixing the fish. Most cichlids do breed really easily, and that can be a lot of fun, especially for the kids. Seahorse are really popular for small aquariums, but if you are going to keep seahorses, at the start you do need to be prepared to feed them live food, such as live brine shrimp. There are ways of teaching the seahorse to take prepared food, such as frozen foods, once they get used to the aquarium. Seahorse are kept in a saltwater aquarium, so you do need to be prepared to learn a little bit more about how to keep the aquarium, because the general rules are exactly the same as keeping a normal saltwater aquarium. So therefore, they're only for someone that wants to get a little bit more involved in their aquarium. Seahorse can only be kept with a very select range of fish, because seahorse are a slow grazing animal, so it's really important not to put them with any gluttonous fish that will eat the food before the seahorse even see it. In the wild, the seahorse are feeding pretty much all the time, just slowly grazing. Be careful putting seahorse with corals, because many of the corals will actually sting the seahorse. Seahorse are actually quite easy and popular to breed, and the funny thing is it's the male that has the pouch, and it's the male which raises the young seahorse. The marine aquariums are saltwater aquariums for the saltwater fish, which opens you up to the beauty of the coral reef fish. These days marine aquariums are getting easier and easier to keep with the increased amounts of knowledge and equipment that's available to you. If you are going to keep a marine aquarium, make sure you get a copy of your Instructional Marine Aquarium Guide before you go ahead, to make sure that you've got the right information before you start. Do remember that the marines are considerably harder to look after than any of the freshwater or tropical species of fish. The information really is the key to ensure that you enjoy keeping beautiful marine fish, because they do require a lot more maintenance and they're a lot more expensive. High quality koi are among the most expensive of all fish, because breeders are constantly striving to create the best colours and pattern within these fish, which is quite amazing considering that they're all bred from what was originally a browny black looking fish. Koi carp are a very popular selection for beginners in the aquarium hobby. Do remember that these fish grow very large, and even though they're very hardy and easy to keep, you're really best off keeping these fish in large aquariums or even outdoor ponds. There's many very exotic and beautiful varieties originating from Japan. Some of the most popular varieties of koi are Kohaku, Senki, Showa, and Ogon. A story I keep hearing again and again is exactly how addictive these koi are. Because of the different varieties and colours that there are available, people get very attached to them. So they'll often put a koi out in an outdoor pond. Next thing you know, the koi has grown too big for the pond, so the person needs to get a bigger pond. And then next thing you know, they need to get 2 ponds. And then before they know it, They're actually a koi breeder, even to the extreme of situations such as this, where their whole backyard is literally full of koi ponds. Aquatic snails are also quite popular to keep. Many types of snails can easily be kept and even bred. Snails also help to eat the algae that grows naturally in an aquarium. If you don't have any algae in the aquarium, there are various algae wafer foods which the snails will comfortably feed on. Do remember that some fish do eat snails. If you want to have a good healthy fish tank full of fish, it really helps to start with healthy fish. So make sure you understand how to pick healthy fish. Make sure that all the fish within the aquarium are swimming freely and look comfortable in the water column. Have nice clean clear eyes, nice clean clear scales, good quality intact fins, and make sure they all look eager to feed, which is a sure sign of good health. For the types of fish you're buying, make sure you know what the colours and shapes of the fish should look like. Depending on the type of fish, make sure you get the individual that looks very active and healthy. Don't get the one that's huddled in the corner or looks like it's having trouble maintaining its position in the water column. It's really important that you know what type of fish you have in the aquarium, because you may need to get advice on what type of fish you can add to the aquarium to make sure that they don't fight or even kill each other. What we're going to do now is show you completely how to set up a medium-sized aquarium such as this one. This is one of the all-in-one models, so it's got lights and filters built into it. We're also going to add an air pump to it, put some gravel, put a background on the back of the aquarium, and then fit it with the decorations, so then we're ready for our fish. When you're looking at where to position your aquarium, remember that it does need power, and also keep it away from any direct sunlight. The next thing we've got to do is to pour in our pre-washed gravel. Try to make sure your gravel particles are not too big, and you only really need a very thin layer. Now what I'm going to do is set up the air line. What I'm going to need is an air pump, some air line and an air stone. The air pump is what generates the air through the air line. Make sure you have a check valve so if water drains back it doesn't blow the pump up, and an air stone to deliver the oxygen into the water. The air stone is really important to any aquarium to give oxygen for the fish, because the water coming out of the filter is actually very low in oxygen because it's been used by the bacterial process of the filter. Now what we're going to do is set up the filter. This particular model has got a top filter. Now every single type of filter is going to have an impeller, and it's really important that at least every few months you give that impeller a clean. And the way that you do that is just pull the impeller out, give the magnet a good clean, and also clean out the housing in which it came out of. The next thing we're going to do is put the filter on the aquarium. This particular model has got a top filter. The key to any good filter is biological filter material. Little bacteria is going to grow on this material which will break down the waste from your fish. So it's really important that you never clean it with water from the tap, which often contains chlorine and it kills the bacteria. The next part of this filter is the mechanical filtration, which is going to take any of the solid waste particles out of the water. So the water is going to be going down through the mechanical filtration, which is going to take any little particles out of the water. So when this stuff gets dirty, just throw it out and put some more in, and then it's going to go past the biological filtration, which is going to break down any waste in the water. Now if you find that your water has a smell or a color to it, if it has like a little tint, then you can put some activated carbon or similar products into the aquarium, which will suck out the smell or the tint in the water, leaving you with beautiful crystal clear water. Plug in the pumps and get the filters running before you're ready to add the fish, and make sure the power points are away from anywhere that you can spill water on them. It's really important you use water rager with any new water you add to your aquarium. Always use at least a double dose to make sure you're getting rid of the chlorine in the tap water. Many freshwater fish like goldfish really benefit from having some salt in the water. Normally you go off about a 1 teaspoon per 5 litre dose rate. Make sure you use a pure salt or aquarium salt. When you bring the fish home from the aquarium store, they'll typically be in a bag like this one, in which they'll have a little bit of water and plenty of air. Remember, the fish don't run out of water, but they do run out of air. If you're going to be travelling for quite a while, do ask that they put oxygen into the bag, so therefore the fish will be safe in the bag for quite a long time. While you open the bag, it's really important to roll the bag open. Don't just fold the bag over the top of the aquarium, because that'll cut off the oxygen supply. If the pH in the aquarium is any different to the bag, it's a good idea to add a glass of water from the aquarium every 5 minutes to allow the fish to adjust to the new pH. It's a good idea to net the fish out of the bag so you can discard that water, because the water that the fish have transported in will typically have a fair bit of waste in it, which you don't want in your new aquarium. Now all we've got to do is add the lighting on the top of the aquarium. Because this is an all-in-one model, the lights are built into the hood. Now there are also different types of tubes are available, which will render different colours to the aquarium. As far as the goldfish are concerned, which one you choose is really up to you, what colour you like the look of. It's normal for the fish to group together and hide at the back when you first introduce the fish to the aquarium. And it's really important you take your time and be very patient when you're introducing your fish. Only put a few fish into the aquarium, then wait a week or so the bacteria in the filter can grow to break down the waste from those few fish. And then add a few more fish, and then wait a week, and then add a few more fish. Because if you go putting in too many fish too quickly, there's not enough bacteria in the filter and all your fish are just going to die. It's a really good idea to have lids on the top of your aquarium, because it helps stop your fish from jumping out and other things from getting in. Putting lights over the aquarium is really what makes the aquarium stand out in the room. Make sure you use lights that are designed for fish tanks, so it highlights the colours of the fish. The lights are not actually important to the fish, but are important to any live plants you might want to put in the aquarium. If you are going to keep live plants in the aquarium, make sure that you are replacing your light globes every 9 months, and make sure you do have enough light for the types of plants that you wish to keep in your aquarium. The key to keeping good healthy fish is to learn how to keep good quality water. Now there's a few parameters that you really want to understand within the water. The first thing, make sure you're using water age whenever you're putting new water in the aquarium, and understand that as the fish spend time in the aquarium, they produce carbon dioxide in the aquarium, which makes the water acidic, and the waste produced from the fish makes the water acidic. So therefore, if you don't control, at least understand the pH of your aquarium, your pH tends to fall to acidic, which can actually burn the fish and cause them to get sick and even die. Regular water changes, good filtration and good aeration in the aquarium is how you'll ensure that your water doesn't go acidic. It's a really good idea to be aware of pH, which is the acid and alkaline levels of the water, because if your pH is constantly low, your fish will end up getting sick. pH tests are very easy to do, and using simple chemicals you can adjust the pH. The single most important element of any aquarium is the oxygen level, because at the end of the day, without oxygen, neither the fish nor the bacteria are going to survive. The bacteria are what's responsible for breaking down the waste from the fish. Now the fish produce a waste called ammonia, and then the ammonia is broken down by bacteria into nitrite, and the nitrite is broken down by bacteria into the nitrate. And the presence of oxygen is one of the most important components there. Understanding that the bacteria needs to break down the ammonia means that we need somewhere for this bacteria to be, for example in a filter. So the bigger the filter and the more bacteria this filter can grow, the more effective the filter is going to be and the cleaner your aquarium is going to be. If you don't have a filter in your aquarium, then the bacteria is going to grow in the aquarium, both on the walls of the aquarium, on any decorations and on the gravel. Any medium which grows bacteria, especially in the filter, must not be cleaned with tap water, because most tap waters contain chlorine, and the chlorine is going to kill any bacteria, causing an ammonia spike in the aquarium. The waste products ammonia and nitrite are easily tested, so you can either get a test kit yourself or take it down to your local aquarium shop and they can test it for you. We do find by adding about 1 teaspoon per 5 litres salt to the water that it does increase the body slime and the general immune system of most fish, especially goldfish. If your water's ever got a smell or a colour to the water, it's a good idea to add some activated carbon to the filter, and what that'll do is suck out any of the smell or colour. But make sure you throw it out after about a month, because it can actually release what it's collected back into the water again. Besides overfeeding, the other main problem that people have is impatience. They put too many fish into their aquarium too quickly. Only put a few fish into the aquarium, then wait a week or so the bacteria in the filter can grow to break down the waste from those few fish, and then add a few more fish, and then wait a week, and then add a few more fish. Because if you go putting in too many fish too quickly, there's not enough bacteria in the filter and all your fish are just going to die. It's really important to understand that a big fish produces a lot more waste than a little fish. It's always better to start with the smaller fish and let them grow into your aquarium. Fish do only grow to a certain size within a certain aquarium, so the bigger the aquarium, the bigger the fish are able to grow to. The biggest mistake that anyone actually makes is really just overfeeding. It's really important you understand how and what to feed your fish. Try to feed your fish a good variety of foods, because it's best if they're not getting the same food every day. And when you buy your foods, buy the smaller containers, don't buy the big bulk packs, because after a while the food does go stale. So keep the smaller containers so then they can stay fresh. Whatever you do, don't follow the instructions on the food container for how much to feed your fish, because I find it's always way too much. I normally recommend a 30-second rule. So you put a little bit of food in the aquarium and make sure that it's all consumed after 30 seconds. And I generally do that about 5 times a week. So the fish don't need to be fed every day. If you forget once or twice a week to feed your fish, don't worry, they can just scavenge and help clean up the environment. The 30-second rule really is a guide. So you must be looking at your fish. If you see them getting thin, you need to increase the amounts of food you're putting in. And then if you see them getting fat, then you definitely need to decrease the amount of food going in. It's best to only have one person responsible for feeding your fish, because you don't want mum to come home and feed the fish, and then dad comes home and feed the fish, and you feed the fish, and then a friend comes over, so show him and let him feed the fish, and the fish just end up getting overfed. So one person's got to be responsible in the family, and that one person is the only person that feeds the fish. Under most circumstances, it's a good idea to have a good filter on your aquarium, because at the end of the day, that's what keeps good water quality to keep your fish healthy. Now there's various different types of filters that you can get, which are going to suit different applications and different budgets. There are 3 main types of filters: biological filters, mechanical filters, and chemical filters. Biological filters are where you're using bacteria on a medium to break down the organics in the water, and are by far the most popular and successful style of filter. You've also got mechanical filter, which works well with a biological filter, because the mechanical filter traps any detritus or particles that are in the water. There's also chemical filtration, and that sucks various organics out of the water. The simplest of all the filters is the corner filter, which sits in the corner of the aquarium, just driven by a little air pump, which sucks the water past the media, which is hopefully a type of biological and mechanical medium. There's also hang-on filters, which, as the name suggests, hang on the back and pass the water via various filter materials. A lot of these are driven by cartridges, so make sure you know how often those cartridge filters need to be replaced, because they're based on carbon, and the carbon will suck in organics till it becomes turgid, and then possibly release those organics back into the aquarium again. Another choice is the under gravel filter, which sucks the water down through the gravel, and bacteria grows on the gravel and breaks down the waste from your fish. It is important when you do your water changes to clean the under gravel filter using a gravel siphon to suck any detritus out of the gravel. Especially for large aquariums, canister filters are very popular, because they can be quite big and they sit outside the aquarium with just a hose going to and from the aquarium, easily concealing them in a cupboard. If you're going to put in a really large aquarium, there's various custom-made sump filters which you really should have a look at. You do have to remember, with these small aquariums that don't have any filtration or even aeration, water changes are very, very important, because water changes defuse the waste produced by these animals. So you need to be doing very regular water changes. In most circumstances, you should at least have an aerator. Even just a simple aerator can drastically increase the water quality of any aquarium. In aquariums without filtration, bacteria grows on your gravel, on the glass, and on the decorations. So you need to make sure that your water changes are only partial water changes, which are done regularly, and that you never clean your gravel or even your ornaments with tap water to kill the bacteria, which is actually keeping your fish alive. Most aquariums, it's very simple to adapt a filter or even an aerator to it, and that addition will be invaluable.
One of the biggest turn-offs for many people is the growth of algae in an aquarium. If you clean the algae regularly, you'll find that keeping on top of it's quite easy. But the longer you leave that algae growing in the aquarium, the more stubborn the algae will become and the harder it is to get rid of. Reducing the amount of light over the aquarium tends to reduce the amount of algae, and making sure you have good filtration helps to keep algae down. Another common consideration is to go for a tropical aquarium, which you can actually keep various catfish in, and the catfish will eat the algae. The addition of aquatic snails can also help contribute to reducing algae in your aquarium. The main reason why people experience problems with algae is having their lights on too long. If you don't have any live plants in the aquarium, try to keep the light on mainly while you're viewing the fish. If you do have plants in the aquarium, try to have the lights on for a maximum of 8 hours a day. Other reasons for problems with algae is if you don't have a properly maintained filter, or if you're not doing enough regular water changes, or if you have too many fish, or if you feed them too much. If any of those problems occur, especially with the presence of direct sunlight, algae is very likely to be a problem. So algae can be quite easily controlled, providing you fix those problems. There are many sucker-mouth catfish which will actually eat the algae in the aquarium, even to the point where you don't have to clean it yourself. You do need to consider what sort of fish you're going to keep with sucker-mouth catfish, because some of these need to be in warm water and they will suck on the side of many vulnerable fish, such as goldfish. Doing your maintenance should be enjoyable, and the key to it is do small amounts regularly, instead of leaving it until the tank looks disgusting and having to totally overhaul it, which takes a lot more time and really isn't as good for the fish. When you are doing your maintenance, you need to clean the glass, clean the gravel when you're doing a water change with a gravel siphon, do a partial water change, and check on the water quality of the aquarium, and clean the filters of the aquarium. These things really shouldn't be a burden if done regularly. When you're maintaining your aquarium, make sure you're cleaning it out with an aquarium safe sponge, because you don't want a sponge that's either going to scratch your glass or even contain various antibacterial chemicals which can even kill your fish. There's various ways of wiping the algae off the inside of the glass. The easiest are definitely the algae magnets, but then you've got various scrapers and sponges that you can also use.
If you do this regularly, then the algae doesn't tend to build up as stubborn, and therefore it's a lot quicker to do. When you're doing a water change, don't remove more than about a quarter of the water at a time to avoid shock to the fish. And always use a gravel cleaner to remove the water, therefore you get to clean the gravel at the same time as doing a water change. If you only have a very small aquarium, make sure you stir the gravel before you remove the water.
All of the waste in your aquarium primarily comes from the fish food that you add to the aquarium. So the more food you add, the more waste you're going to have to contend with. So the fish eat the food and the fish produce the waste. Then you need filters that can break down the waste from the fish. And it's important that you clean the filters so they don't clog up with this waste.
There's all different types of filters available, so it's really important that you understand how to clean yours properly. A good filter should have both a mechanical and a biological medium. It's really important the biological medium is cleaned with water that you drain out of the aquarium and not exposed to tap water. And your mechanical medium, which collects all of the dirt, as soon as it looks dirty, it's best just to throw it away and put in a new one. When you first set up an aquarium, it's quite normal for it to go cloudy for a little while because you've introduced various organics into the aquarium, and sometimes water-bound bacteria are the first ones to grow. As the good bacteria grows in the filter, the cloudiness will soon disappear, leaving your aquarium beautiful and crystal clear. Sometimes the aquariums will go cloudy if either they're overfed or overstocked. So if you've put too many fish in the aquarium and the water's gone cloudy, then you might need to take some drastic action, such as doing partial water changes and adding various bacteria chemicals to make sure that you've got strong bacteria colonies to break down the waste from your fish. Adding too many fish at once is a major problem and will often cause the water to go cloudy as well. Whatever you do, make sure you don't put too many fish in at once in the aquarium. It's very important that you never release any of your plants or fish that you've kept in your aquarium back into the wild, because many species of plants and fish can be noxious to foreign environments. And if you go releasing into a foreign environment, the effects can be devastating on the natural ecosystem. If you do have plants or fish that you don't want anymore, because either you're getting rid of the tank or they're grown out of your tank, take them back to your local pet store, because they'll be able to find a new home for them, and your local river or lake is definitely not the right place. You really have to be aware to look out for diseases that could develop within your fish. The first thing is watch the way the fish swims and the feeding habits of the fish. Generally, if the fish are eager to eat, then there's a good sign that they're healthy. On the other hand, if they're not taking food and they're acting irregularly, that's when you really need to look over the fish for any signs of disease. The most common disease that you're going to encounter is called white spot, which is little white dots on the fins and the body of the fish. This disease is generally easily treated. Just increase the amount of salt in the water and get a commercially available medication. There's plenty of them on the market and they are quite effective. And this is providing that you find why the fish got sick in the first place. Because remember, the fish don't usually just get sick. If you're offering good water quality for your fish, they shouldn't get sick because they've got very good natural immune systems in healthy conditions. So the key to keeping good healthy fish is to keep good healthy water. It's very rare for your fish to get sick if your water quality is high. Really watch temperature fluctuations as well. If you notice your fish getting sick and there's been drastic changes in temperature, then you might want to think about either relocating the aquarium to a more consistent temperature area, or even putting a heater in the aquarium. And the heater is going to take away those low dips of temperature which are likely to make the fish sick. The next thing you're likely to encounter is a bacterial infection. Same thing again, if your water quality is high, then bacterial infection is not highly likely, because the immune system of the fish and the body slime of the fish contain antibacterial agents and antiparasitic agents that help to keep the fish healthy. But then if they attack each other or bump themselves on a rock and do damage their body, it is quite common to get a bacterial infection in the wound. And there is plenty of commercially available medications which will quickly and effectively avoid these bacterial problems. Increased salt is also going to help bacterial problems. The next thing is a fungal infection. If you've left the bacterial infection untreated for too long, it can actually change into a fungal infection. And same thing again, good water quality is really the key to solving these problems, and there are plenty of commercially available medications. If you've had your fish for many years, sometimes it can also just die of old age. You do find that in the smaller aquariums, the fish don't tend to last quite as long as in the larger aquariums where you hear of fish living for 15 to 20 years. And that's very much dependent on the species of fish. Some of the very small fish are only annual fish in the wild, so therefore they live, breed and die all in 1 year. If you ever notice what seems to be blood coming from the body of the fish into the fins of the fish, that's called a hemorrhage, which basically means the fish is experiencing stress. So you need to check your water quality and find out why this fish is stressed in order to reverse the effects of a hemorrhage. A funny thing to remember is that fish don't want to die. They die for a reason. So if you've got fish in your aquarium that keep on dying, get a jar of water out of the aquarium and go down and see your local aquarium shop and go through with them what it is you've been doing, and don't just buy some more fish without changing the circumstances to make sure the new fish are going to live. Also know that when fish are looking a bit lethargic or listless and are breathing very heavily, that's their way of trying to tell you that something's wrong. So you really need to investigate to find out what's going wrong with that aquarium. So look at what it is you've been doing. Make sure you haven't been overfeeding your fish, or you haven't added too many fish to the aquarium, or you haven't over cleaned the aquarium, or even washed the filter material with tap water. Some of the larger growing goldfish and koi carp are really best suited to outdoor ponds. An outdoor pond, if designed properly, can be an absolute asset to any backyard and is the ultimate water feature, offering hours of enjoyment and pleasure. A lot of the same principles for keeping fish in an aquarium also apply to keeping fish in a pond. Don't change too much water at once. Don't clean the filter material in water from the tap, which might contain chlorine. Don't overstock your pond. Don't overfeed your pond. So most of the things you're learning about how to look after an aquarium are also relevant to looking after your pond and ensuring the health and safety of the fish you do put in your pond. Just as filtration is very important to an aquarium, it's also very important to a pond. There are some very fancy and effective pond filters now available, delivering you crystal clear water all year round. One of the most important elements of these sorts of pond filters, besides biological and mechanical filtration, is the addition of a UV sterilizer, which kills the green water, which is the little algae spores which discolour the water of a garden pond under the strong summer sun. Water flow and aeration are very important to any garden pond, just as it is with an aquarium. Most water flow or aeration is done through water fountains or waterfalls. Just as the fish in the aquariums like some cover or places to hide, that's also the case with the garden ponds. So do look at some of the aquatic plants and lilies that are available as valid additions to your pond. The key to maintaining a garden pond, as with any aquarium, is to do small amounts regularly instead of these large spring cleans which cause major amounts of stress to the fish in the pond or aquarium for that matter. So doing small regular water changes are far more beneficial than big half water changes, and cleaning the filter regularly, once again in water from the fish tank, not water from the tap, instead of waiting for the filter to clog up before you actually clean it, is going to really benefit the pond. Also make sure you're looking after the pH of the pond to make sure your water doesn't go acid, because most of the fish you're going to keep in a pond are really going to thrive in more neutral to alkaline waters. I hope you've really enjoyed this DVD. By now you have enough information to really have fun with this hobby. It's very easy to revisit the relevant chapters of the DVD while you're maintaining your aquarium, but remember that your first point of call is your local aquarium supplier, so really get to know them. They can help you if you have any problems. Good luck and enjoy.